Good morning. Today is Monday, the 22nd day of Elul. And today we begin a new letter in the Igeret Hakodesh, letter 16. And as we mentioned many times, most of the letters are regarding tzedakah, regarding the charity, importance of charity, and looking at it from many different aspects. And today we have a really very interesting letter, the way the Alter Rebbe explains how charity should be given, not only when everything is good, you have plenty to spend, you have plenty to spare. That this letter is addressed to one particular community that the Alter Rebbe was raising money to for the people in Eretz Israel, he had the Kolel Chabad to support the Jews who immigrated to Israel back, we're talking about, 200, 250 years ago. And this particular community, they had very, very difficult time financially. They were really, really in dire need themselves. And in the past years, they used to give nice donations, and it came to the Alter Rebbe's attention that this community, the donations have declined. And the Alter Rebbe writes to them a letter saying that he knows their situation, and he feels them, and he prays for them. But yet, in the same time, Alter Rebbe says how it is important not to bring the donations down. On the contrary, they should continue to give. And he explains it from different aspects, both halachic aspects, to go that even halachically, it's something to be able to, one should go continue to help when there are other people who are less fortunate. But also, the Alter Rebbe brings that when you go beyond the letter of the law, how this is something that benefits the person who gives, especially when he gives in a time when it's difficult. So let's see inside this letter 16 in the Igeret Hakodesh. Here's the Alter Rebbe. Le'anshei kehilas, to the members of the community of, doesn't disclose which community it was. And he begins the letter, Ahuvai, Achai, V'reyai, Asher kenafshi. My beloved, my brethren, and my friends, who are to me like my own soul. There's friends, there's brothers, there is Ahuvai, my beloved. There's different levels of closeness and friendship that each one has with the other thing it doesn't have. And Alter Rebbe addresses them in this way, and it says, I love you and I know the situation. The hardship of these times are not hidden from me. In that the means for earning livelihood have declined, especially among those known to me from your community whose hands have faltered. That means they lost their source of income, so that they are without any providers at all. No work available for either husband or wife. Umamash, to the point that these people were in such desperate need. Those people, this community that he's addressing, who were giving tzedakah and they couldn't, they just didn't have. To the point, umamash lovim v'ochlim, and they literally borrowed in order to eat. They didn't have money to eat. They needed to borrow money in order to eat. Hashem yirachem aleim ve'yarchiv lahem b'tzar bekarov. And he says, may God show them compassion and speedily bring them respite from their straits, to give them, put them in a better place, to widen, to give them the good blessings. So this is how he begins the letter. I know your situation. I know exactly what is your situation. I know you guys are borrowing money in order to eat. However, says the Alter Rebbe, Ve'im kol zeh lo tov hein osim lenafsham. Nevertheless, they are not acting rightly unto their souls. Lefi hanishma asher kafzu yodam hapesucha meyodam ad hayom hazeh. According to reports, but they close their hands, which all their life long, to this very day, had been open. That it was always open, your hands, you always gave generously, and now they didn't give as generously. Litain beyad melaya ve'ayin yafa lechol stachus ha'echachim lidei machsorei ha'evyonim nekiyim. And to give to a full hand and a generous eye for all vital necessities, to satisfy the needs of the clean destitutes. What does it mean, the clean destitutes? The poor people who are clean. There's two ways of understanding it. Poor people who are clean, he's talking about the people he's collecting for, those Jews who lived in Israel. So those Jews, it says the Alter Rebbe, they are poor and they are clean poor. There's two meanings. One meaning is they're clean poor, meaning they're pure in the Shama and they're poor. Clean spiritually. The other meaning is that the Evyonim Nekiim, they're clean, completely poor. The poverty is they're so desperate that they're clean. They have nothing, literally nothing. Whose eyes are lifted unto us. The Alter Rebbe's collections was the only source of income for those people. And if we will not pity them, heaven forfend, who will? And it says, Alter Rebbe says, and it is written, so that your brethren may live with you. In other words, when you have another brother, you got to make sure he lives with you. And Alter Rebbe now addresses the question of who says I have to give them. If we are poor and they are poor, we know the rule is that chayecha kodmim. It says in the Talmud, when if two people travel in the desert, and one of them has water, but he knows that the water is only going to suffice to one of them. One of them can survive with this water, not two. If they share the water, then both of them will die. So Rabbi Akiva says, Chayecha kodmim. Your life comes first. You have to worry, first of all, to make sure that you are alive. So you have to make sure that to drink the water so you survive. What's going to be with the other person? If it's in your hands to save both, obviously you have to save both. But if not, you have to, the Torah says you have to make sure that you're alive. And Hashem will have to provide for the other one to make sure to, and if there's a decree, then there's nothing you can do about it. That's what the Rabbi Akiva says. So the Alter Rebbe addresses this. In this case, we'll say also, these people will say, wait a second, we are poor, people in Israel are poor, but we are also poor, we also have to borrow to eat. So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain that this is only true if both they have the same problem. Both have the same needs. In other words, if there's only water, let's say, to survive for both. There's an example the Gemara brings there that if a city has water coming to them, the source of living. And there is down the hill, down the mountain, there's another city. And they also need water. But if there's only enough water for one city, then they should keep it for themselves. They have to save their own first. But what if there's water for drinking water? And there is water for washing the clothes. So if the city up on top has water enough to drink and to wash the clothes, and the city on the bottom has no water, not even to drink, then the first city should not wash their clothes. Should make sure that the water should go to the next city to drink before they have water for them to wash their clothes. So the same thing here, the Alter Rebbe says, when do we say that chayecha kodmim, you have to take care of yourself first? If it's a matter of life and death, if it's a matter of eating, then of course you have to feed your family first. But if you have enough money for food, but you don't have enough money to go on vacation or for the other luxuries, and then there's another person, another Jew that has needs that he literally doesn't have for food, then of course you have to take care of your brother first before you take care of your luxuries. That's what the Alter Rebbe continues. V'lo amru chayecha kodmin, ela kashebiyad echad kiton shel mayim. As to the ruling of the sages that your own life takes precedence, this applies only in a case when one has a pitcher of water in hand, and it's enough only for one of them to survive. Shehu davar hashave lishneim b'shave lishtes lahashiv nafshem b'tzama. That is when it is equally essential that both drink in order to save their lives from thirst. But if the pauper, the poor person, needs bread for the mouth of the little children, the babies, and he needed firewood and clothes again against the cold and the like. He says, this are the absolute necessities. So kol dvarim elu koidmem lachol malbushei kavod lezevach mishpacha basar v'dagim v'chol matamim shel ha'adam v'chol bnei beito. So then all these takes precedent over any fine apparel and family feasts with meat and fish and all kinds of delicacies for oneself and all of one's household. So if you need the money to buy your extras, and what is the extras? It's like fish, meat. If you have bread and the other person doesn't have bread, you gotta make sure before you buy your fish and meat, get the other person the bread. The rule that your life takes precedent does not apply in such a case. Why? Because they are not really essential to life, as are the needs of the poor in true equality. As discussed in the Gemara, the Tractate Nedarim, page 80. So this is what the Alter Rebbe tells the people. That number one, you have to understand that if your life is secure, if you have enough just to live, and there's other people that cannot live, even don't have the basics, you got to take care of them. There's a story they say about Rabbi Meir Shapira. We had a yeshiva in Chachme, Lublin, and he was going around raising money for his yeshiva, and there was one person, a wealthy person that was a regular supporter, and one year comes to him to support the annual support of his yeshiva, and the wealthy person tells him, "I'm sorry, Rabbi, this year I can't. I don't have enough. Business is not doing very well. No, I can't give you. So the rabbi says, well, and he gets up. He says, okay, in that case, I have to divorce you. And he gets up and he walks and says, the guy hears thinks, what does the rabbi mean? Divorce mean? I'm aware. I don't think I'm married the rabbi. What's going on? He says, Rabbi, what do you mean? So the rabbi tells him, the Meir Shapir, he tells him, that says in the Torah, it says in the Mishnah, and what are the reasons that a husband can divorce his wife? One of the things that is mentioned, the Hillel said, Afilu ikdicha tafshilo, even if she burns his food, he can divorce her. And the question is, what kind of thing is this? Wife burns the food, that's it? That's a reason for divorce? So he explained to him like this. He says, listen, sometimes it happens. Wife cooks a meal and it gets burned. The question, what does she do with the meal? So there's three types of women of how would they deal with such a situation? What would they do with the food? One, a righteous woman is someone who is really devoted and loves her husband and is going to do everything. What is she going to do? She's going to take the top of the food, which is not burned, and give it to the husband. And the rest, the bottom, which is burned, she's going to eat herself. This is a woman who gives everything for her husband. Then there's another woman that is not so righteous. What is she gonna do? She's gonna split the pot straight in the middle, half burned on the top and the bottom, and not burned on the top is gonna take for her, half for the husband. And then there is the third one is gonna take my husband. Who cares? I'm gonna take the half the pot up for me. His part, I'm gonna give him the burn. This is what it says. Hikdicha tafshilo. She burned his part, his meal. So that shows that this woman really doesn't care about her husband. So he says to him the same thing when it comes to tzedakah. We have a living, we work, we make a living, Baruch Hashem, we have our needs. And the question is, where is the priority? What do? We have money, how do we share the money? So some people say, first thing, I give tzedakah. Then I share for my family. Others will say, first I have to take care of all of my luxuries. If business is going down, the burnt is for the tzedakah. Meaning, where do you cut first? Is the tzedakah. If this is what you do, then you're like the woman who has to get the divorce. Guy understood the message. And of course, this is a message Alter Rebbe is teaching us here, that when it comes to tzedakah, besides what the Alter Rebbe is going to tell tomorrow, in tomorrow's shir, the benefits that we give, especially when you go beyond the letter of the law, and we do much more than what we need, then the blessing comes from above. It is good in the past, present, and future, as we'll see in tomorrow's shir. So join us tomorrow as well. Thank you for joining today. Make sure to share this.
Thank you, Rev.
Questions or comments, we can discuss it now. All have a wonderful day.